I saw the eviction notice plastered on the front door of their house, and my heart just stopped. How could this be happening? After everything, did they really not tell me the whole story? What would you have done? The rain was coming down in sheets as I stood there, the neon glow of the 2025 city reflecting off the slick pavement. My parents' little suburban house, the one I grew up in, the one filled with, well, complicated memories, was about to be taken away. Again. Flashback to 6 months ago. I was living my best life in the city, working as a UX designer for a hot new AR filter company. Think Snapchat, but like way more immersive and addictive. Anyway, then came the call. Mom, sobbing, barely able to get the words out. Lily, we're going to lose the house. The bank was foreclosing. Apparently, they'd been struggling for years, racking up debt after debt. I felt a pang of guilt. I knew they'd been tight on money, but they always brushed it off, saying they were managing. Managing to what? Ruin themselves? I did the only thing I could think of. I liquidated my savings, every last penny. $20,000. Enough to pay off the mortgage and save their home. They were ecstatic, grateful, overflowing with love and promises. You're the best daughter a parent could ask for, Dad boomed, clapping me on the back hard enough to make me stumble. Mom was crying, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. Then, a week later, the hammer dropped. Lily, we appreciate what you did, but we think it's best if you don't come back here for a while. My mom's voice was cold, distant, like she was reading from a script. What? What are you talking about? I asked, my voice trembling. We need our space. You interfere too much, Dad mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Interfere? I just saved their house. What was going on? The conversation ended abruptly. They hung up. I tried calling back, but no answer. Texts went unanswered. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. $20,000. And this is how they repay me? Told to never come back? Back to the present. Standing in the rain, staring at that eviction notice. All the hurt and anger came flooding back. Had they been lying all along? Was there something else they weren't telling me? Something bigger? I had to know. I decided to investigate. The first stop was the county records office. Hours sifting through dusty documents, my eyes scanning for anything out of the ordinary. A second mortgage. One I hadn't known about. A large one. And it was taken out just months after I paid off the first one. How could they? The document was linked to a holding company, Sunrise Investments. I searched it online. Nothing. It was a shell company. Who were they hiding from? What were they hiding? My phone buzzed. An anonymous text. Drop it. It's not worth it. A chill ran down my spine. Someone knew I was digging. Someone wanted me to stop. But I couldn't. Not now. The text included a picture. A blurry image of me entering the county records office. They were watching me. Who and why? I decided to enlist some help. I reached out to my old college roommate, Chloe. She was a cybersecurity whiz, practically living in the digital world. If anyone could trace the text or find out who was behind Sunrise Investments, it was her. Okay, spill, Chloe said, her fingers flying across her holographic keyboard in her dimly lit apartment. Family drama, anonymous threats, secret investments. This is juicy. She traced the number, a burner phone. Dead end. But then she started digging into Sunrise Investments. Hold on, she said, her eyes widening. This is weird. The registered address is a vacant lot downtown. Classic money laundering setup. Money laundering? My parents? It couldn't be, could it? What would you think? Chloe found a connection, a series of transactions between Sunrise Investments and a crypto exchange. They're funneling money into some obscure blockchain startup, she said. Claims to be developing AI-powered virtual real estate, but it smells like a scam. I Googled the startup. Metaverse Estates. Glossy website, lots of buzzwords, zero substance. An influencer was promoting it heavily. a vapid woman named Tiffany Sparkle, or something equally ridiculous. This felt like a house of cards, ready to collapse. I drove back to my parents' house. The rain had stopped, and the sky was a bruised purple. I needed answers. I knocked on the door. No answer. I tried the handle. It was unlocked. I stepped inside. The house was eerily silent. "Mom? Dad?" I called out. I found them in the living room, sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the news on their holographic TV. They looked defeated. "What's going on?" I demanded. "What's with Sunrise Investments, the crypto scam, the second mortgage?" They avoided my gaze. Mom started to cry again. We made a mistake, Lily," Dad mumbled. "A mistake? You lied to me. You took my money and then told me to never come back," I shouted, my voice cracking. "What were you thinking?" they explained, or rather, attempted to explain. They'd been lured in by the promise of quick riches. Metaverse Estates was supposed to be their ticket to financial freedom. They'd invested everything they had, including the money I gave them, hoping to double or triple it. "We were going to pay you back, Lily, we swear," Mom cried. But of course it didn't work out that way. The startup was a scam. The money was gone. And now they were facing foreclosure again. I was furious, betrayed. How could they be so stupid? So reckless. They risked everything, including my future, for a get-rich-quick scheme. "Who sent the text?" I asked. "Who knows about this?" They hesitated. It was Mark. Dad. Mark. Their financial advisor. The slick guy in the expensive suit who always seemed to be hanging around. He was the one who introduced them to Metaverse Estates. He was the one who encouraged them to take out the second mortgage. He said if we told anyone, he'd make sure we lost everything. That he'd ruin us, Mom sobbed. Ruin them? This was more than just a bad investment. This was extortion. This was criminal. I left the house, my head spinning. I needed to think. I walked to a nearby park, the holographic ads for Metaverse Estates flickering on the buildings around me, mocking me. I sat on a bench, staring at the city lights. What should I do? Turn them in? Expose Mark and Metaverse Estates? Or protect my parents, even though they'd betrayed me? Could I forgive them? My phone buzzed again. A new message from Chloe. I found something. Mark isn't just a financial advisor. He's a known con artist. He's been running this Metaverse Estates scam for months, targeting vulnerable people. And guess what? He's using your parents' house as collateral. Collateral. He was going to take their house, regardless of the mortgage. And he'd threatened them into silence. That was it. That crossed the line. I couldn't protect them anymore. I had to expose him. I contacted the police. I told them everything about Sunrise Investments, the crypto scam, Mark, the extortion. They listened. They took notes. They said they'd investigate, but I knew that wasn't enough. I needed to warn others. I created a burner account on social media and started posting about Metaverse Estates and Mark. I shared the information Chloe had found. I warned people to stay away. The post went viral. People were outraged. The influencer, Tiffany Sparkle, suddenly went silent. The Metaverse Estates website disappeared. Mark went into hiding. The police raided his office and arrested him. They recovered some of the stolen money, but most of it was gone. My parents were devastated. They faced legal consequences for their involvement with Sunrise Investments, but they were also considered victims of Mark's scam. The house was saved, but not because of me. It was saved because of the police investigation. It was saved because of the attention my post had generated. My parents were ashamed. They apologized profusely. They said they understood if I never wanted to speak to them again. I looked at them, their faces etched with regret. They had made terrible choices. They had lied. They had betrayed me, but they were still my parents. I thought about all the good times we had shared, the memories, the love. Was it enough to outweigh the bad? Could I forgive them? I took a deep breath. I need time, I said. I need space, but I don't hate you. I walked away. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I could ever fully trust them again. But I knew that I had done the right thing. I had exposed the truth. I had protected others. Years later, I still visit them. It's not always easy. There's still a lot of unspoken tension. But we're working on it, slowly. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. That family isn't always perfect. That forgiveness is a choice. And that sometimes the hardest thing to do is the right thing. So what would you have done? Would you have exposed your parents, even if it meant hurting them? Could you have forgiven them after such a deep betrayal? What would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more. Your support helps me create more content like this. Thanks for watching. I never came back completely, but maybe, just maybe, we found a way forward. The city sparkled at night, but my heart felt heavy. I wandered through the streets, past the cafes with free Wi-Fi and glass walls, past the holographic ads for the newest AR games. Everything felt surreal, like I was living in a movie, and someone had just hit the pause button on my life. What I needed was to be alone. I ended up at a dive bar I hadn't been to in years, a place with sticky floors and a jukebox that only played sad songs. I ordered a whiskey, neat, and sat in a dark corner, trying to process everything. I remembered something my grandmother used to say: family is like a tangled ball of yarn. You try to unravel it, but it just gets more knotted. Was she right? Was there no way to truly untangle the mess my family had become? Then I remembered the deleted messages. In my parents' phone, they were all erased. Messages, history, erased and erased, like something was being carefully cleaned. The police hadn't asked about it. It wasn't a piece of the evidence. I found it when I returned their phones. Chloe looked with me the data, so she found the deleted messages. What was I looking for? Nothing I wanted to find. I went to Chloe. Those deleted messages. Do you think you can recover them? She raised an eyebrow. Anything's possible, Lily, but it'll take time, and it might not work. I knew the risks, but I had to try. Days turned into weeks. Chloe worked tirelessly, her fingers dancing across the keyboard, navigating through lines of code that looked like hieroglyphics to me. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to my parents, to Mark, to the secrets buried in their phones. I started having nightmares. Nightmares of dark alleys, flashing neon lights, and anonymous figures whispering threats. I found myself jumping at shadows, checking the locks on my doors, constantly looking over my shoulder. What would you do if you felt this way? One evening, Chloe called. Her voice was excited. I got something, Lily. It's not much, but it's a start. I managed to recover a few of the deleted messages. They're mostly from Mark. She sent me the transcript. The messages were cryptic, filled with financial jargon and coded language. But one phrase stood out. The package is ready for delivery. What package? And what was being delivered? Chloe dug deeper. She traced the IP address of Mark's phone. It led to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. A warehouse registered to a fake company, just like Sunrise Investments. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. This was the key. But going there alone would be insane. I called the police. I told them about the warehouse, about the package, about my suspicions. They agreed to investigate, but they couldn't guarantee immediate action. They needed a warrant. They needed evidence. I couldn't wait. I had a feeling that time was running out. Against their warning, I decided to go to the warehouse. On my own. What would you have done in my place? The warehouse was located in a deserted industrial park, the neon city lights flashing over a deserted alley. It was late. The only sounds were the hum of electricity and the distant rumble of traffic. I parked my car a few blocks away and walked the rest of the way, trying to blend into the shadows. The warehouse was dark and silent. The only light came from a single flickering bulb above the loading dock. I crept closer, my heart pounding in my chest. I peered through a grimy window. Inside, I saw Mark. He was talking to someone. I couldn't see the other person's face, but I could hear their voice. It was familiar. Too familiar. My blood ran cold. It was my mother. I couldn't believe it. My own mother, involved in something so shady? What was going on? They were arguing. Mom's voice was shrill, desperate. I told you, I can't get you the money. We're broke. Mark's voice was cold, menacing. You made a promise. You signed the papers. You're going to deliver, one way or another. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a contract. He waved it in front of her face. Remember this? Your signature. Legally binding. I recognized the document. It was the second mortgage agreement. But something was different. There was a clause I hadn't seen before. A clause that stated that if my parents failed to meet their financial obligations, Mark would have the right to... To what? I strained to hear. Right to sell their intellectual property. Intellectual property. What intellectual property did my parents have? Then it hit me. My grandmother. She had been a writer, a novelist, a successful one, before she died. She'd left behind manuscripts, notes, everything, and it was all stored in my parents' house. Mark wanted the rights to my grandmother's work. He was going to exploit her legacy for his own profit. I couldn't let that happen. I had to stop him. Now. I burst into the warehouse. Let her go, Mark, I shouted. He turned around, his eyes widening in surprise. Lily, what are you doing here? I know everything, Mark. The scam, the extortion, everything. It's over, he smirked. Is it? I have everything under control. Your mother signed the agreement. There's nothing you can do. He reached for something in his pocket. A taser? I didn't wait to find out. I charged at him, knocking the contract out of his hand. It fluttered to the floor. He grabbed me, trying to push me away. I struggled, kicking and screaming. My mother stood frozen, watching in horror. Stop it, Lily. You're going to make things worse, she cried. Worse? You're selling Grandma's legacy to this con artist, I yelled. Mark managed to pin me against a wall. He raised his hand to strike me, but then something unexpected happened. My mother lunged forward. She grabbed Mark's arm. Get away from her, she screamed. She shoved him with all her might. He stumbled backwards, tripping over a stack of boxes. He fell to the ground, unconscious. I stared at my mother, stunned. She had saved me, but why? Why, Mom? Why did you do that? She burst into tears. I didn't know what else to do. I was scared. I was desperate. She explained everything. How Mark had manipulated them. How he had threatened them. How he had convinced them that selling Grandma's work was the only way to save their house. I'm so sorry, Lily. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to protect our family. I wanted to believe her, but could I? How could I trust someone who had lied to me so many times? The police arrived, sirens blaring. They arrested Mark. They took my mother into custody for questioning. I was left standing in the warehouse, surrounded by flashing lights and the wreckage of my family's secrets. What would you do in my place? Would you forgive your mother? Would you try to rebuild the relationship? Or would you walk away and never look back? Days later, I learned more. My parents had not only the problem of Mark, but some debts that they hid carefully. They had a huge amount of hidden debt. I felt betrayed and angry. I looked for Chloe. What could happen? What must I know? That is not the end of the story, Chloe said to me. I am sure. There is more. One day I received a letter. I did not recognize the address. It's time you know. Who wrote this? What did it mean? The envelope was plain. No return address. Just my name and address scrawled in messy handwriting. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Who would send me something like this? And what did they want me to know? I hesitated before opening it. A sense of dread washed over me. What if it was another threat? What if it was something that would shatter my already fragile world into even smaller pieces? I took a deep breath and tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was the same as on the envelope. The message was short and cryptic. Follow the money. Look for the emerald. The emerald? What did that even mean? Was this some kind of bizarre scavenger hunt? Or was it a clue? A clue to what? My parents' hidden debts? Mark's criminal activities? Or something else entirely? I showed the letter to Chloe. She frowned. This is weird, Lily. Really weird. Follow the money. Look for the emerald? It sounds like something out of a bad detective novel. She examined the paper closely. It's old. Looks like it's been stored somewhere for a while. And the ink is unusual. It's not something you can just buy at any store. She took a photo of the letter and ran it through a forensic analysis program. Okay, she said after a few minutes. I got something. The paper is a rare type of stationery used by high-end hotels and resorts. And the ink? It contains traces of a specific type of dye. A dye used in the production of counterfeit currency. Counterfeit currency? My parents? Involved in counterfeiting? This was getting more and more insane. What would you think? Chloe tracked the paper to a luxury resort in the Bahamas. The Emerald Sands Resort, she said. Get it? Look for the emerald. It was too much of a coincidence. I had to go. I booked a flight to the Bahamas. The Emerald Sands Resort was exactly what you'd expect. Sprawling beaches, turquoise water, and guests sipping cocktails under palm trees. It felt like a different world from the dark alleys and deserted warehouses I'd been frequenting lately. I checked into the hotel and immediately started asking questions. Had anyone seen my parents here? Had anyone noticed anything unusual? Most of the staff were unhelpful. They were either too busy or too afraid to talk. But then I met a bartender named Carlos. He was older, with kind eyes and a knowing smile. I showed him a picture of my parents. I think I remember them, he said. They were here a few years ago. They stayed for a week. They seemed stressed, always arguing, always on the phone. He paused, and I remember seeing them with a man, a tall, thin man with a scar on his face. He seemed dangerous. A scar on his face? That sounded like Mark. What was he doing in the Bahamas with my parents? Carlos told me that my parents and Mark spent most of their time in a private villa on the far side of the resort. They were very secretive, he said. They didn't want to be disturbed. I decided to check out the villa. It was empty, of course. But as I looked around, I noticed something odd. A loose floorboard in the bedroom. I pried it open. Underneath, I found a small wooden box. Inside the box was a stack of old photographs. The photos showed my parents and Mark. They were standing,